Well, they say that there are 200 Israeli tanks that are outside the southern city of Khan Younis, waiting to go into this very densely populated city in regular times, and now extremely dense because of all the Palestinians who fled from the north when that was the center of Israeli airstrikes. Um, the Israel army has, as your report said, published a map of areas that it plans to attack rather than the wholesale large-scale bombing that they did in the north. But there doesn't seem to be very much room for Palestinians who are in Khan Yunis area and the Rafah area for places for them to flee to, even given their knowledge before of where the airstrikes would be.
That said, Ricki, were civilians warned ahead of time to leave the areas that the Israelis were going to bomb as they did previously, or did they just, get them by surprise? And where are the civilians really taking refuge in Gaza?
The Israeli Air Force dropped leaflets into Khan Yunis, letting people know beforehand. I mean, they've already let them know, and they haven't started the massive airstrikes and tank attack, letting them know which specific areas they were going to be attacking, and telling them to flee to agricultural areas that are not populated, that are close to the Mediterranean Sea. But it's hard to imagine how over 1 million people who are crowded into southern Gaza are all going to move en masse to these relatively empty agricultural areas.
Are there any more prospects of having Israel hostage release with swapping with the Palestinian prisoners at this point?
It does not look very optimistic. The Israeli government called back their representatives for the negotiations who were in Qatar, called them back to Israel because they said that nothing substantive was being discussed. And Hamas announced that there would be no further hostage releases until the end of the war completely, not a temporary ceasefire. And meanwhile, the hostage families are getting more and more desperate and demanding that the Israeli government meet with them to tell them what, if any, moves are being considered to continue the hostage release negotiations. They say that they will carry out a sit-down strike in front of the Defense Ministry until they are allowed to speak to the government.